fans, and welcome. It's season 13, race 6 of 12. 190 laps here for the United States IndyCar League at the Milwaukee Mile Classic Circuit for IndyCars, kart, Champ Car, NASCAR over the years. Actually the longest operating oval in the United States. And so awesome to be back here where there is so much history. So the cars for the US IndyCar League are heading out onto the track at the moment to get their qualifying in. Let's go ahead and head it down track side and see if we can catch some of these drivers on their qualifying laps. Here's Dan Ensch just headed out there at the moment. See if we can get some timing and scoring up here for you. Get us underway with the week. So great to have you joining us here on VirtualRacing.Network in our ongoing coverage of the US IndyCar League here in season 13. And last week we were at the road course at Daytona. We saw Matt Kingsbury step in for 1 week and do a one-off effort and take that victory. Take a look at the points and how things stack up at the moment. 2 weeks in a row, a one-off driver has stepped in and taken victory here in the US IndyCar League. But this is favorite Dan Ensch in the ALZ.org. Dallara IR18 trying to get in a great qualifying effort and represent the fact that today is the ALZ.org Milwaukee 190. Apologize for not mentioning that at the top of the broadcast, but we're so very happy to be bringing some awareness to the Alzheimer's Association, and Ensch getting in a 3rd place time. Meanwhile, Jason Lowe getting in his qualifying effort and able to take pole position thus far. We'll talk about Jason's current health status at the moment, and he's just had surgery on his eye. So if you can believe it, he's actually trying to race with one eye taped open. Quite the competitor Jason Lowe is, as we look at Ryan Bowles here, getting it wrong on the 2nd lap and unfortunately tagging the wall. It's going to put him 5th on the track, and here we have NPC Van Tongeren. Obviously not aware of our commercial policy on livery, so we won't be able to show his car very much on the screen. And if our team is listening, you need to take those commercial sponsors off your car so we can start pointing the camera at your car. Graham Bunyan losing the rear end, but keeping it on the track, unfortunately torching those tires. Graham was just working on his 2nd lap there, and so far he's only gotten 4th fastest. Here's Mr. Stickwick, Richard Kelbaugh, of course, the US IndyCar League each and every week presented by Stickwick. So quick to jump back into Stickwick mode, but it's actually today's race presented by Alzheimer's Association. And again, we'll be bringing you some more messages about Alzheimer's Association going forward. Can Kelbaugh get in a good 2nd lap? He's not able to, unfortunately. Getting 7th fastest there and continuing. Now we've got David Strid, who's one of our, he's currently 2nd in the points. And we'll see whether or not he can manage to climb up into the order for today's race. And it looks like we're only going to have 9 competitors today. So unfortunate, and Strid kind of losing the rear end there on that 2nd lap, just like his countryman Graham Bunyan. So they're going to be starting back there on, well, David will be starting on row 2, assuming that Mike West doesn't come out here and set a time. Strid will be starting on row 2, and Bunyan will be starting on row 3. Nothing impossible for them to do. And by the way, Strid had just set the purple sector time there in sector 1. So he was on a hot lap, but unfortunately it got a little away from him. And so take a look at the starting order here for today's race. it will be Jason Lowe and Howard Livingston getting in a lap while we weren't able to catch him on the camera there, but second fastest. So kind of looking like shades of old days here, the US IndyCar League, with Lowe, Livingston, and Ensch starting 1, 2, 3, and then on the outside of the second row, it'll be David Strid, Bunyan, and Tongren starting just behind, and then Bowles, Kelbaugh, and Mike West not taking a time. So it'd be just 9 with us today. Of course, that means there's room for you out there. If you're looking on and you want to be part of the action, definitely look into the description down below the video, and you'll see a link to click on over to the US IndyCar League and get your career started with the US IndyCar League. You just need to have a little bit of experience driving the Indy cars, nothing fancy. Just want to make sure you can handle the Indy cars. You'll probably be invited by Jason Lowe, the administrator, to sit in with the group. So let's go ahead and, if we can, take a look at our current points as they stand. So Graham Bunyan continuing to lead the points here for the US IndyCar League, but David Strid still hanging on there, and Howard Livingston still in third. In fact, the top 6 not changing in the order. And so you got to go a little bit further than that, and you see Iñigo Mardones now climbing up 3 spots in the points, and he's one of those drivers that has the ability to go a little bit further than that, and we'll see. Today he's not in the field, unfortunately. We're missing quite a few of our regular drivers. So Iñigo is not going to be there. Manuel Gomez Esteban is not here today. David Zaleski not here. Will Stearns not here. Mauro Ramirez had a great debut with us here on VirtualRacing.Network, racing very well. Unfortunately, he also won't be with us today. But we hope that you're enjoying it watching on in 4K resolution out there as we get set to watch these competitors do battle, and we'll see whether or not Jason Lowe can keep a handle on that Dallara IR18. Again, he had surgery near his eye, his right eye, and so it's interesting, those of you who have been following the Jeep the Cat situation. He's got a little like lightning bolt right in the same place that Jason Lowe now has a lightning bolt. So will Jason Lowe be the lightning bolt with his eye taped open and make it through the whole race? Will he need his wife to come in and put eye drops in the middle of the race? We have no idea, but we wish him luck, as well as the rest of the competitors.
Green.
We are underway here for the AOZ.org Milwaukee 190, and Jason Lowe immediately able to handle the car through turn 1 and 2, and move it back out. Livingston still in control of second place, but here comes David Strid, now down on the low side of Dan Ensch. Now they're going 3 wide. And decide to single file it to Ryan Bowles, climbing 4 spots on that start. Bowles now sitting in third spot. We'll see whether he can continue to charge forward, but it's Jason Lowe still in command out there in front. And not looking back at the moment. Fuchsia and Yellow Machine absolutely looking stellar out there so far. Further back race favorite Dan Ensch still in 5th place. He's lost a spot from the start, but we'll see. He was talking to me a little bit before the race. For the fuel here today, and we'll look to see whether or not that will pan out. Dan Ensch, one of those fuel saving masters for certain. We'll see whether or not he can go up and grab some fuel saving today. Or is he going to just drop the hammer and go for it? Well, we'll find out. In the meantime, back up front, it is Jason Lowe, followed by Howard Livingston, qualified 1-2. Ryan Bowles in third place. Possibly going to have some Jason Lowe up front continues to set the pace for the field here in Milwaukee. So as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Milwaukee, one of those ovals that has been part of, well, really United States. Just kind of heard a noise that sounded like somebody perhaps scraped the wall, though I'm not sure that that's what happened. But nevertheless, they're continuing out here. Back to our original point. Milwaukee operating since 1903. It originally was a horse track, and then they decided to make it into a dirt track. And in addition to the oval, originally there was a 1.8-mile road course in the center of this track, which I find fascinating. Would love to know what that would have been like to race on. All the most famous IndyCar racers ever have raced here. Barney Oldfield, Ralph DePalma, Parnelli Jones, AJ Foyt, of course, just so many great races over the years. Traditionally, Milwaukee was the race right after Indy each and every season. Unfortunately, there was some shakeup in that as we got into the 2010s. Some light race attendance not able to keep IndyCar on the schedule. And so as you see Howard Livingston perhaps gaining on Lowe, keep an eye on that, and slowly creeping into that lead. And it could be that Lowe is perhaps out there doing a little bit of fuel saving himself. But still, all these cars still on the lead lap as we're 16 laps into this one. Rapidly approaching 10% of the way through. And Graham Bunyan has dropped all the way back to 9th. Not sure if Graham is having issues. A look in is Graham now having to follow Richard Kelbaugh, Mr. Stickwick, and you know, I tell you, that's not really the norm. This is not where we typically see our two-time champion Graham Bunyan. But here he is at the back trying to make something happen, and perhaps he suffered some damage earlier on. It does say that he jumped to the pits prior to the start. So let's go ahead and take a look at that while we have a moment. This is Graham. I think Graham decided to start from the pits. As he is elected to do at various points, there he goes leaving the pits now. So It's a technique that can be utilized in a lot of, certainly in Formula One, they utilize this a lot, and basically as he's now gotten around Mr. Stickwick, Richard Kelbaugh there. Continuing on, Graham sometimes has used this, I guess, more as an extra challenge, but sometimes the drivers do use this technique more so to avoid accidents, perhaps in turn one. And so the fact that you start from the pits allows you a little bit more opportunity to avoid a big pile-up should there be one, and of course that you won't be taken out if you're, say, in first or second headed into turn one, that there isn't a chance that somebody can take you out. So we'll have to ask Graham afterwards if that's why he did it. Meanwhile, he has gotten around his teammate Mike West, and West and Kelbaugh continue to run together, but Bunyan trying to make that effort to come back up to the front. So Bunyan qualified, of course, in 5th, and now dropping back to 7th. So we take a look, MPC, as he was known, I guess now he's Martin Bentongeren. But great to have him in the field. We'll have to keep him on the long camera here so we don't get those sponsors on there. But nevertheless, Martin has been solid in the races that we've seen him at. He's definitely been looking like he can challenge up towards the front, but thus far not quite able to do so. Certainly not taking the lead yet, nor taking any victories, but Martin having a great time out there, and that's what it's all about. Keep it clean, have a great time, and that's the US IndyCar League. Sometimes you take it a little bit more seriously than others. You put in the hours of practice, maybe with the setup that's supplied on Saturdays, which, by the way, this week, mostly supplied from Dan Ensch, part of Dan's ample library of setups that he has collected over the years for this IR18 IndyCar. But also some additional work being done by, I think, David Strid and another driver. So teamwork really coming together here to make this set work and feel good. But not surprisingly, it is the driver with the most amount of experience, but perhaps surprisingly, he's having to race under great duress here with his right eye taped open, and it's Jason Lowe who's led every single lap. He's led from pole, and he's certainly on pace to perhaps take this win today, and that would be a fantastic thing for him to get honestly, you get the Grand Slam. If he can lead the most amount of laps here today, he would love that. So it gets a bonus point for getting the pole, it gets bonus point for leading a lap, it get a bonus point for leading the most laps, and also he takes victory. And if Graham especially cannot, this is a problem for Graham. He does, as much as he's in command of those points, he doesn't want to see a trend of finishing, mid-pack or further back and letting Jason Lowe finish up towards the front. He knows how dangerously competitive Jason Lowe can be, and that's not to say that Howard Livingston isn't, who's currently running in second. Of course, Howard racing for the Care Camps organization will have their race at the end of the season, but Jason Lowe is one of those competitors. He's three-time champion in the series. He has ample real-life racing ability and knowledge, and anytime that I come across a real-life racer who's out here sim racing, I know they know how difficult and the regiment that's required for real-life racing and the challenge that's required each and every week to get up and get ready to go for the race and be competitive. So Jason Lowe, doing dirt racing out there and going sideways and doing slide jobs on people in short track racing, amongst other racing that he's done. You just have to look at a competitor like that. You just don't want to give that kind of a competitor a chance to to potentially climb back up into these points. But Howard Livingston has shown himself very capable the last couple of seasons. He took a victory last season, and it's very possible we could see him in victory lane here again. Maybe it'll be today, but if not soon. And he's certainly the poster boy, if you can, for kind of the championship finish sort of situation. He's consistently gotten podiums, top fives here in the US IndyCar League, and as a result, he's staying in third in those points with David Strid in second. So this is one of the most competitive races that we've seen Howard Livingston racing in here this season. We'll see whether or not he can stay there in second and get some more of those key points and trying to move up into that points battle towards the end of this season. So great to have you with us here on VirtualRacing.Network. If you're watching us live over on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. Of course, we're here every Sunday, except for a couple of weeks ago around Christmas time. We just weren't available to be here, so we missed that race. And last week, something really strange happened. We were broadcasting live, and then YouTube decided to chop off a great part of the race, so it's really too bad. Nevertheless, looking over at our YouTube chat room, does say that Julian Altena, who raced so well last week at Daytona, unfortunately not able to join us this week. He unfortunately was called by the family to do some chores, so that's an issue, but he'll be back hopefully next week. And as he is saying in the chat, there are 190 laps. Well, they click off real fast here at Milwaukee, as we are rapidly approaching, well, we're about 20% done. We're coming up on 25% done here in just a few laps. And so we'll be expecting some cars to make their way into pit lane, and that's when things can shake up a little bit. So we will be watching for that. As we've now been watching, I realize, the Howard Livingston car on screen for like 4 straight minutes. Here's David Strid, Australian, who is currently second in the points, and not too far away from Graham Bunyan that he can't manage to, climb up and potentially get that championship from Graham. In fact, it was kind of looking like he might do that not that long ago. But he hasn't quite had the finishes that he would like as of late. So that status has stayed about the same for Strid and Bunyan, with Livingston sitting in third in the points. But again, performances like this, while Bunyan is suffering, this is the type of performance that can elevate Strid and Livingston in those points and start creeping in on Bunyan. And here you can see Bunyan check back in. He's gotten around Dan Ensch, and looks like he's taking care of the tires pretty well. As you can see, Ensch in the ALZ.org machine back there. But Bunyan now up into 5th. That's where he qualified after starting on pit road. He did manage to effectively get this race started okay, and then he's had to climb his way back. So perhaps he can, showing that he can do it from the back today, or maybe he was expecting a melee in turn 1. Nevertheless, Bunyan able to get it done. So now back at the front with Jason Lowe, and Lowe, driver out of Florida, is looking at the backside of David Strid, who, no, that's not right. I apologize for that. He's looking at the back end of, is that Mike West? Yes, it is. Looking at Mike West and trying to put him a lap down. He's already put Richard Kelbaugh and Van Tongeren a lap down. And Graham Bunyan's teammate here, Mike West, not going to probably make it real easy for Jason Lowe to get around him, as Bunyan in 5th place is trying to climb his way back into this race. So Mike West doing nice Felipe Massa impersonation, and Lowe says, I've had enough, I'm coming in. Stopping on lap 45, so our first taker in the pits here. Lowe creeping down towards his pit box. Stops on the marks and up onto the jacks. And he'll head out pit road. He'll resume back in 8th place, and so there you see David Strid go by. Strid not having headed down onto pit lane yet. Ryan Bowles now into the pits, Van Tongeren into the pits. We await race leader David Strid, who will continue here, and Livingston actually lost that position to Strid on the track. See if we can find that one. Fortunately, our software not making it easy for us to find exactly where that took place, but nevertheless, now Howard Livingston resumes back in 8th place. And so Strid now making his way down onto pit lane, and you can also see Graham Bunyan and Mike West also on pit lane. So there's Strid, and just leaving pit road is Graham Bunyan now. So we'll put the track map up there. You can see where everybody's at on the screen, just under the Alzheimer's Association logo. Lap 50. I'd like to, of course, thank Dan Ensch, who is out there running around in first position at the moment, racing for awareness, racing for ALZ.org, which is the Alzheimer's Association. And currently, as I said, in the lead and taking a chance on some fuel strategies, trying to stretch that fuel tank, and so far he's managed to do a good job of it as he's gotten through 50 full laps here, now pulling it in. So looks like all these drivers that have managed to go past about 47-ish laps will be set on making it till the end. And somebody like Dan Ensch, who now gives up the lead to Jason Lowe once again. Dan Ensch is actually going to be plenty good on fuel, and perhaps for that last stint, he'll be able to do a very short, that last pit stop, he'll be able to do a short fuel and save some time on pit road, perhaps get himself a couple of positions that way. Nevertheless, Ensch back out in 6th. He's lost 3 positions so far today, unfortunately, but we'll see how it all shakes out at the end. Jason Lowe, and here we can see Ryan Bowles and David Strid battling it out on track, side by side through turn 1 and 2. And they race down the backstretch. Bowles on the inside, Strid on the outside. Strid keeps it on the outside. Bowles drifts up behind, so that's Strid having gained 2 spots on the day already, and Bowles having gained 4 spots, but Bowles not happy with just 1 win this season. He's definitely going to be looking for another one. So continuing here, lap 56, and it is Jason Lowe in the lead. Round 6 of season 13. The US IndyCar League, right here on VirtualRacing.Network. By the way, if you're enjoying this coverage in 4K, please make sure to subscribe. There's a big red button there underneath the video. You just got to tick that, and then if you want to get notified of our upcoming broadcasts and other content that we'll be bringing you, make sure to tick the little bell as well, and that'll give you all the notifications of our upcoming live broadcasts and other content. Of course, you can go ahead and like this video as well. So much to do, I know, but thank you for your support. If you like the video, that will, of course, also help yourself and help the channel out, because it'll recommend our videos to you, and it will also recommend our videos to others as well. So subscribe, tick that bell, and like. You'll see a lot more racing action here on VirtualRacing.Network. Jason Lowe continuing to take us through today's race here and put on quite a show for this sold-out crowd in the virtual Milwaukee Mile. So let's take a look. One thing we have not seen today, I have to hide the track map for a second. The weather, well, it's 73 degrees in the air, 5-mile-an-hour breeze, but 114 on the track. And you know, this series does a lot of night races, and in the night races, tire degradation not quite such a big factor. But in these day races, those tires do cook, and that extra temp on the track really does bleed through to the tires. So you got to be really careful with where you have those settings on the car. And a driver like Lowe, Graham Bunyan, David Strayed, Ryan Bowles, all these drivers, they know how to work these in-car adjustments. Of course, this is a fixed setup here in the US IndyCar League for those of you that haven't been watching for very long. It's supplied each and every Saturday before the race, and you basically just have a few adjustments that you can even make. One of those being the anti-roll bars in the front and the rear. And, you know, each one of these things, depending on how the setup is actually built, may or may not be a very good adjustment. So, for example, if the car is perfectly balanced at 5 front ARB, anti-roll bar, so you can go from 1 to 6, 1 being the softest and 6 being the hardest, or the stiffest. But let's say that it's balanced at 5 on the front. Well, I mean, if it feels balanced, it's difficult to change that balance in favor of trying to keep the tires under you. So a lot of times what you'll do instead of changing the ARBs necessarily, either front or rear, is you'll adjust the weight jacker. And a lot of times that's one of the easiest ways to keep the car pointed forward and keep it turning left, because that right rear tire, it's under a lot of load as they go through these corners very, very fast. And so it puts a lot of heat into those tires, wants to overheat those tires. And so if you're overheating your right front as you turn in so hard into these corners, well, then you turn up your weight jacker, go up on it a little bit. And so you have an adjustment from -20 to +20. And what that does when you go up on that weight jacker, it turns the car more. So it causes the right rear of the car to go up in the air just a little bit. It causes that tilt towards the left front. And that puts a little bit of extra pressure on the right rear tire as opposed to the right front. And that helps to keep the tires balanced and keep you able to get through the stint and still be able to keep the car turning. So this is some of the adjustments that these drivers are going to be making all day today. And again, sometimes you might adjust those ARBs, especially if that's how the setup was kind of designed to do that. Perhaps the more common ARB to adjust might be the rear, as that one really affects how much the car will turn actually through the corner. So just one of those fun things to get in and try out. And although there's not much braking to be done here on this oval, there is you do have the ability also to adjust that brake bias, so you can send that forward or backwards. But those are some of the adjustments that these drivers can make here in the US IndyCar League, and keep those cars from hitting the wall, which is so easy to do. We see Martin Tongren into the pits here a little early on lap lap 71. So perhaps he might have had a moment. And so just a moment ago, this happened on the track. This is Graham Bunyan in the blue car getting around Howard Livingston. Howard kind of taking the high line and letting Graham through. Perhaps he saw that Graham was a little bit faster, but there is Graham up into the lead. And there was quite the battle happening not long ago between Bowles and Strid, which we saw. With Bowles now riding in second. We'll go back to the live picture here. So there's Lowe. We jump to the stick quick blimp. You can't even really see Bowles back there, but he's 3.4 seconds back. And Strid 5 seconds adrift of the leader Jason Lowe, as we're now on lap 74, coming up to halfway here pretty soon. And these drivers continuing to make those adjustments in the cockpit and try and keep these cars under them, as it's really easier said than done. Sometimes you're lucky. For example, if you're racing in the official fixed series of the IndyCars, sometimes you're very lucky. You'll get a setup that doesn't need much adjustment, just the weight jacker, maybe 1 or 2 clicks during the race. And sometimes you get a setup that needs a lot of work through the race. And these shorter ovals tend to be, they can be very aggressive on the car, because you're throwing the car in there at such a high turning speed that a lot of times you're burning off the right side tires much faster than you would like to. So you end up having to make some adjustments and some compromises just to get the car to keep turning through the whole race. And obviously, if you go too much, then what happens is the car will simply overheat. It'll be too much for the right rear tire, for example. If you go too much weight jacker, just be too much for that right rear tire and you'll start to spin. And that's, I think, what we've seen catch a couple of these drivers out, is they've gotten loose, and certainly in qualifying getting loose. So Lowe on an absolute tear here today, already lapped up to 6th place Dan Ensch, and that is quite a feat, as Dan is very experienced. In fact, just to talk about Dan Ensch for a second, Dan also competing in another series that'll be racing tonight, the Indy Elite Series I was racing in last season. And so Dan, my last lap motorsports teammate, Spark VR last lap motorsports teammate, he's been working on the Iowa setup, because that's where they're going to be at this week. And so he's been working so diligently, and we've been working all together to try to get a little bit of speed into that setup for him. And so we'll be able to catch him out there tonight, and that will be broadcasted over on Sim TV. So for those of you looking to catch up with Dan, but Dan also in a fixed race at Iowa, in an open race at Iowa this week, and taking our setup out there and doing some pretty awesome stuff with it, coming home with a 2nd place finish in an open race. We beat some pretty good competitors in that open race. So might be a chance to tune into Sim TV tonight and see Dan perhaps do well on an even larger stage. But here today is the biggest stage, of course, for Dan, because he wants to bring that awareness to the Alzheimer's disease and what the Alzheimer's Association is doing to help treat it and help cure it and help spread some awareness about what it is. And Dan drifting up the track, really having difficulty there. Unfortunately, not sure what's going on in the cockpit there, but he really struggled with that car, perhaps struggling with those adjustments maybe here at the end of this stint. And we'll keep watching on board. So the car's going okay, but he's having to put a lot of input into that car to keep it going through the corner. So unfortunately, does not look like today will be the day for Ensch, but he keeps that car circulating, and really kind of that's what it's all about. I mean, if you've got Alzheimer's, there's no escaping it, and Dan has as a family member who's suffering every single day with Alzheimer's disease, and so Dan deeply involved with that and helping to support his family member, and you can't run from it. There's no place to escape. If you find out that you have Alzheimer's, the only way to deal with it is to really understand it, and as a family member, to be there for your family members and to help them to understand what's going on, what they're going through, and prepare for hopefully treating it and being able to manage it. But that's really what this is about, and I hate to draw that comparison, but as somebody who does a number of races on iRacing, a lot of times you're forced into that position where you have to suffer along in the race. The car's not handling well, and there's just not a lot you can do about it. Perhaps you brought the wrong setup, perhaps you've made adjustments that don't work out, perhaps you've damaged the car and it's off speed a little bit, or perhaps you just honestly can't figure out why it's a little slow and everyone else is a little faster. As the clouds set over the top of Milwaukee here, the picture dips a little bit, but nevertheless, that purple and white and black machine, beautifully sparkling, and Dan putting in the laps, and you just continue on because you really don't know. You just don't know. As you see Graham Bunyan going by there on the high side, you just don't know when things can turn around. Perhaps you get a caution, you can get in, get that damage fixed, get new tires, get a whole new lease on this race. So you just got to hang in there and do your best, and that is what Dan is doing at the moment. Trying to continue to hyper-mile that car and get some more fuel mileage out of it. Nevertheless, Jason Lowe continuing here in the lead. He's led every single lap from pole position, and he now heads into the pits on lap 91. So splitting 46 and 46. I don't have my calculator out, but that should be about good enough to make it to the end, even without cautions. I mean, not from here. He'll still have to do a couple more stops. And we look at Ryan Bowles, who's now taken over the lead, looking to put Mr. Stickwick, Richard Kelbaugh, 2 laps down here. Take a look at Mr. Stickwick. He's had some great races so far this season. Honestly, he was really suffering last season as we now have the leader, Ryan Bowles, coming into the pits. But Kelbaugh has had some top 5s, and really just his general competitiveness has really come up this season. Milwaukee, one of those tracks that it's difficult to get an exact grip on. It's not, as you can see here, a number of drivers like Jason Lowe have it figured out, and it's not the easiest track to get absolutely figured out and have the best adjustments for it. So there's still some room for growth for a number of drivers in the series, but nevertheless, Bowles now comes back out in 4th place, and Strid continuing here, not having done his second pit stop. And by the way, do you see who's up into 2nd with this round of pit stops? It's Graham Bunyan. He's managed to climb back to just 3 points, 3 seconds back from his fellow countryman David Strid. And so, of course, a yellow flag will help them tremendously, especially if it were to come out right this second. But we shall see as drivers continue to circulate around. as now Strid makes his way into the pits, as does Bunyan. And you can be sure that Strid and Bunyan are talking to each other on the radio, communicating. I'm not sure if they're officially teammates. In fact, I don't even know if Graham Bunyan actually has a team name. We'll have to ask him that. It's funny that he's been racing all this time. We haven't known what his official team name is, but he doesn't really talk about it. He is officially a teammate with Mike West, but we know that Graham and David are unofficially at least teammates, but perhaps officially teammates as well. Either way, they work together, as well as AJ Burton, who sometimes is feeding Graham Bunyan some information as far as pit strategy and other information. So AJ Burton coming in a couple of weeks ago when we weren't filming at Texas and taking that victory. Burton, a very skilled IndyCar racer in his own right. And it's a shame we don't get to see more of him in the series, but there you go. Love to see Matt Kingsbury out there and Julian Altena as well. Will Stearns popped into the chat today and let us know he's rooting on at least Jason Lowe with his Team Pirate patch. Well, I guess he doesn't have an eye patch on, but Team Pirate. Go Jason, he says. So great to have you over there in the chat. Will and Julian watching us live. Actually got quite a few viewers right now. Pleased to have you joining us, watching live here at VirtualRacing.Network. Feel free to say hello over in the chat. In the meantime, we're watching Ryan Bowles, who is in the lead, and gonna have to figure out exactly how that took place, because Bowles is now ahead by 2 seconds. Does not appear as though Bowles did it on the track. So it's very likely that with that round of stops that Bowles simply took over the lead. We'll have to get clarification after the race, as again, there's no indication in any of our notes that Bowles got a round low. You know, why don't we jump back and see? This was earlier as Lowe got around Graham Bunyan for third. And Lowe shows that he's only been into the pits twice, so he hasn't had to serve another penalty or anything. So we'll go back to the live picture and try and sort it out later. Nevertheless, Ryan Bowles able to take over the lead here. And stay in that lead, as Jason Lowe has had to, I guess, spend perhaps, let's take a look maybe at their pit and lane time. We'll see if we can figure this out. So you can see Lowe actually had a little bit of a shorter pit lane time. No, Bowles with a slightly shorter pit lane time, excuse me. I need to look at a very small picture of my screen. So as we watch our new leader, there is the yellow flag, and it is for Jason Lowe. And we were wondering when and if it would come out. It's on lap 109, and there, unfortunately, is the destroyed car of Jason Lowe. So just going back to that, where I can finally see the friggin' numbers on my screen, because they're so small in my little preview window. We'll take a look at Jason Lowe's crash here, but no, in fact, it wasn't Jason Lowe. Get back to that in a moment, because it's kind of a moot point now, as Jason Lowe does not appear to be able to perhaps get that victory after all today. It was right after we wished him luck, so we'll make sure that we don't do that in the future. But there the damaged machine sits, and it's going to take quite a lot of repair to get that one going again. So we now get a lot of drivers coming into the pits. Ryan Bowles just came in. Of course, you see Jason Lowe there. Mike West and Martin Van Tongeren also into the pits getting service. That puts David Strid back into the lead. And Bowles is now shown in third. We'll have to wait for the timing and scoring to catch up with us. But Livingston is in fourth. I'm not exactly sure. Where is Livingston? Okay, so Livingston actually could get a lap back if he didn't pit here. But he is going to pit, so must be real short on fuel by this point, and so Livingston heads into the pits and decides to top off that tank. Be back underway here in a moment. Let's go ahead and jump back to the Jason Lowe crash. Just a moment before. Let's see how far back we need to go. So here we are on track, and let's see if we can get over to Jason Lowe's car, and there is your problem. It seems as though Mike West and Jason Lowe are trying to occupy the same space on the track, so we just back it up there and take a look from overhead. Let's see. In real time, Lowe on the outside, and real hard to say on that one. Real hard to say. So it's, you know, I think Lowe thought he was clearer and he wasn't, and Mike West was right there, and certainly West, you know, a teammate to Graham Bunyan, not conceding that position, though he certainly didn't need to, and it looked like that was just a situation where Lowe thought he could turn in clear, otherwise he was going to be too far on the outside, and unfortunately ruining his own day and taking out Mike West in that process. We'll see if we can go back and see if we can tell what it's like from on board. We'll back it up just a little bit and watch it here from Lowe's point of view. So Lowe catches Mike West, who's slow off of the corner, and Lowe goes to the high side, thinks he has him cleared, but don't think he got that. So we'll go back to the live picture, and it is David Strid who leads us back to green here on lap 113, and Graham Bunyan just behind. He's come from starting from the pits. Now Bunyan into second, Ryan Bowles in third. So quite a shakeup from the way the thing started, and well, Lowe will go down as having gotten the pole and led a lap and gotten the most laps led, but unfortunately today is not going to be his day to take that victory. As it continues to fall down through the order and have to take, actually he does appear to be, is he on the track? Yes, he is circulating. So they did, the number 004 team did manage to get that car repaired and back out there, but perhaps a little off the pace. And we're actually seeing a note here. Let's take a look at what happened to Jason Lowe. This was him pulling forward, and then, oh, I guess they had just released him from the pits, and so he was just letting the field kind of go by. Didn't want to interfere with that. Back in the live picture, it's David Strid. Continuing on here in the lead. He's taken over the lead with that crash by Lowe, and somehow by staying in the lead and then coming in, he's managed to... No, I take it back. I'm showing... This is very interesting. I'm showing Strid did not hit. So, in fact, this is quite interesting as Strid and Kelbaugh are shown with only 2 pit stops. So let's take a look.
The yellow flag is out.
And now we've got another yellow flag. It's Dan Ensch with the ALZ machine. Coming off of turn 2, he just gets sideways. And fortunately, no damage to the ALZ machine. He'll continue on, and this is actually a blessing for David Strid and Richard Kelbaugh, who are going to be able to get in and get those pit stops done without going down a couple of laps. And Ensch also able to continue there. So we will see when Strid comes in. Well, my notes are a little conflicting. It does say, well, I guess Graham Bunyan is shown with an extra pit stop. So they stopped on lap 97. Strid, Bunyan, and Kelbaugh stopped on 96. So, put this back up on the screen. You can see the stint length and how far people have gone. Change it over to the lap, and you can see what lap they came in on. So, actually has not fully updated to the third, unfortunately, to the third pit stop. Graphics work sometimes, sometimes they don't. Nevertheless, you can see who has made 3 stops, and so if you look at the list there, that means that Bunyan and Strid still need to come in at some point, and they're getting to be about halfway through that tank now, coming up on halfway through that tank, as is Kelbaugh. So do you come in now? Do you wait and take a chance that you're going to have to come in under a green flag stop when others aren't? And are we seeing Mike West? Yes, Mike West leading a small train of cars into the pits, including Jason Lowe and Dan Ensch. So these drivers making their stops, but we wait to see what will happen with our 2 leaders as they are now somewhat off sequence. They're still in normal sequence for the whole race in terms of how you would plan it if it had gone green flag the whole way. Of course, they're saving fuel under this yellow, so they don't necessarily need to come in until they do put in, see if they came in on 97, then they would want to be coming out on about 137 or so. 37. No, I take it back. About 145 they would be coming in, and then that would leave about 45 laps or so, 46 laps or so for the end of the race. So they can stay out there, and effectively they don't have to pit. The other drivers there that stopped on 93 and 94, they probably, Bowles and Livingston, they wouldn't have been able to make it all the way had it stayed green. And so they definitely came in and changed that strategy. So now pretty much everybody is on a strategy that they should be able to make it on just one more stop. However, all those drivers, Bowles, Livingston, Ensch, West, Lowe, all of those drivers, when they come in, will be able to take less fuel than Strid and Bunyan, and perhaps that could play a role in how this one finishes. I'm looking at Ryan Bowles right now, who'll be able to take just a couple of seconds less fuel then Bunyan and Strid for their final stop. And in the meantime, we are back underway on lap 123. Round 6 here at Milwaukee, and back up at the front, it is David Strid who continues to lead. But it's Graham Bunyan on his tail, and you can see Ryan Bowles racing Graham Bunyan real tough. Jump back to that battle. There's Bunyan and Bowles. So Bowles will be very aware of the fact that everybody just has to make one more stop, but it's Bowles kind of in the catbird seat here, as if he can stay close to Strid and Bunyan, Bowles will be able to effectively do 2 or 3 seconds less in the pits and take that position in the pits. So Bowles' #1 job right now is to stay up on the backside of Bunyan and not let him out of his sights. He's doing a good job of that right now. Take a look from on board Ryan Bowles' #25 machine. This historic Milwaukee mile, turn 1 and 2, and down this short backstretch. Very nice wide open corners. Of course, if you recognize this turn 3 and 4, you may have picked up that Pocono Raceway was, of course, it's got 3 corners on it. It's not your traditional oval, and each one of those 3 corners was built off of a famous racetrack of IndyCar history. One of those corners, the final corner, the 3rd corner, being based off of the Milwaukee Mile. So, showing you how much history there is and how much it likes to get around. Unfortunately, Jason Lowe appears to have jumped back into the pits, and perhaps he is out of the race now. Apologize for cutting away from the action like that. Sometimes that's what happens when we try to cut to a driver who is not shown out of the car. Just goes to the scenic camera, but David Strid continues in the lead. Up 1.6 on Ryan Bowles, who did manage to get around Graham Bunyan into 2nd. Of course, just as we were jumping around there. So let's go back and take a look at that. Here's Bowles on the low side of Bunyan. Bunyan didn't really fight him too hard. I don't think Bunyan has any fear of Bowles taking this victory. Bunyan's fighting for a championship here, not really concerned with just taking the victory. As long as Bowles stays pretty close to David Strid, he's not very concerned at all. So Bowles just 1.1 seconds back from Strid. Can Bowles manage to close in as we go back to that live picture? 1.1 seconds. We'll take a look at our stick kit, stickquick.com blimp cam. I'll get it right one of these days. Ryan Bowles now closing in. It's under a second to David Strid. Bowles is looking for some results today. Sometimes Bowles comes out and he's just got fire in his belly, and this appears to be one of those weeks. We'll have to see whether he can do it today. So Bowles not taking a victory so far this season. definitely be looking to take that first victory of the season, as he's definitely been one of the fastest drivers in the field and taken victory in previous seasons. So Ryan here continuing in second, trying to chase it down, just 0.8 of a second back now from David Strid, as Strid is having to work on a little bit of lap traffic there. And Bulls now just 0.6 of a second back as they try to get around Mike West. There's your gap to the leader, just 0.6 of a second. Tell you what, someone else just popped into the YouTube chat. Great to have you in here, Jesper Orman. Quite an accomplished IndyCar racer on iRacing, for certain. Getting out there doing a lot of official racing. So part of a great group there at Three Crowns Racing, who's got some very talented IndyCar drivers. Anyway, Jesper stopping in for and saying hello to us over in the chat room. Appreciate you watching and saying hello. Jesper from, of course, Sweden, and Julian Altena is Dutch. And so quite an international crowd catching this race here from Milwaukee. And of course, Jesper's big on his IndyCar history as well, so he's probably watched many of those races that are posted over on YouTube. But I love to do that sometimes, just go back, watch some of those great IndyCar archive races, Kart, Champ Car. One of my favorites from this track, it's a classic. I can't remember the exact year, but Sebastian Bourdais was here and he just absolutely annihilated the field, and he was shocked, but it was like watching a superhuman effort. Just really let you know how well hooked up that team was at that time. Just managed to put, I think, at least a full lap on the whole field, if not 2 laps, and it was something stunning to watch at the time. But there's just been so many really great races. Now, this being a 1-mile oval, there's really not much room to get around. There's not a lot of straightaways, so as you can see, it's really all about getting that rhythm exactly right, getting the balance on the car exactly right, and hopefully managing to catch your opponent a little off guard. Or perhaps catch them while they're, trying to work on traffic, catch them while they're trying to deal with in-car adjustments, get that car right again. And that's about the only way that you can get by here. Otherwise, very, very difficult. And that's kind of it's kind of the antithesis of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Whereas, again, for so many years, Milwaukee was the race right after Indy. So you would go from super fast Indy and banking and, lots of straightaways that you can draft and make passes on, to Milwaukee, which is just a classic low-bank short course, short track. And, again, you can see why this track is, while it doesn't have the most passing ability, it is definitely a great challenge for the teams and for the drivers that come here. So it's always just so fun. Jesper actually letting us know he just watched the 2008 Milwaukee Mile highlights. I don't know if that was the race for Sebastian Bourdais, but it was right around that time. And yeah, it's so cool on YouTube. You can definitely check that out. Of course, speaking of YouTube, if you like US IndyCar action and you want to catch up on some of the past races, we've got them all going back through the very end of season 10. Save for one race that we didn't cover this season. We've got all of them archived here on youtube.com. Just click over to our playlist and you'll find season 11, season 12, and now season 13 right here for your viewing pleasure. So, as we get down to just 40 laps remaining, been racing for just over an hour here. And good morning to you. Happy 2022 to all of you out there who suffered through 2021. I sure hope 2022 is going to be a better year for all of us. But it was a really interesting year for racing, and we hope the IndyCar Series is going to have another great series this season. It's been so competitive for all of us to watch, and these drivers to go out there and be a pretend IndyCar driver for a moment and soak up some of that greatness. So there's David Stritt in on lap 151. He'll have to take 49 laps worth of fuel. I mean, he can do it, but he might have to dial it back a little bit, as he was only getting 46 laps out of the car on the first stint. So Bulls now taking over the lead again. And again, Bulls with a slightly different situation. When he comes into pit, he will not need to take as much fuel as Stritt or Bunyan. And by the way, Bunyan now falling back to fourth, and Livingston back up into third. So let's take a look back at that. As well, that's your case right there, as Bunyan did get his pit stop done, and Livingston able to eclipse him on the track during his pitting. So going back to the live picture, and here's Bulls and Stritt. Now Bunyan is pitted and fueled to the end. Livingston is not. He'll need to stop one more time. And so while all of that is going on, we're going to try to get in a couple of sponsored messages here. And we'll go side by side so that you don't miss anything.
We've invented cars that drive themselves and 3D printers that build prosthetic arms and legs. We've successfully transplanted hearts and lungs. Now it's time to end Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is on track to cost the nation $1.1 trillion by 2050. We can either be known for having the most expensive disease in history or for putting an end to it. Ask Congress to join the fight at alz.org/time-to-end-ALZ.
So we appreciate you stopping for a moment in your day to hear about Alzheimer's.org and the Alzheimer's Association, and what they do is the ALZ.org machine of Dan Ensch heads into the pits here on lap 157 for his final pit stop of the day. And of course, as I was mentioning, Dan Ensch dealing with Alzheimer's in his family in real life, and trying to do his best to bring some awareness here in the US IndyCar League. And there's some interesting stats I can throw at you, but basically Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. It's a general term for memory loss and other cognitive abilities serious enough to interfere with daily life. And Alzheimer's accounts for 60 to 80% of dementia cases out there. So it's something that you want to try to treat early on if you spot it. Alzheimer's not a normal part of aging. It is very much something that can happen early onset, but it's much more common with anybody as they get over the age of 60. And there's no cure for it. There's just treatments that can be done, and there's ways of mitigating it and trying to handle it and deal with it and cope with it. And certainly the more support and understanding that we all have, the easier it will be for all of us to not only treat it, but hopefully find a cure at some point. And if you want to do your part to not just, find out some more information to see if maybe your family member, if they've been experiencing some memory loss or some other difficulty functioning and they're getting older, it's definitely time to go and check alz.org and get the information that you need. Perhaps schedule an appointment and get in there and see what you can do and maybe get this thing treated. Definitely head over to alz.org, make your donation, help fight this disease, help find more treatments and more cures, and together we'll all be able to hopefully conquer this disease once and for all. So we thank Dan Ensch for bringing that awareness, and of course, we'll also be able to get a chance to talk with him at the end of the race as well. We go back to the live picture, and it is David Strid who's out front.
We've
at the
invented
moment.
cars that
Whoops.
drive themselves.
Fortunately, cutting the wrong piece there, but there we go. David Strid out in front, and we've got a side-by-side battle with Ryan Bowles. This is for your race lead and potential victory on track. And again, Bowles in a slightly more favorable position in terms of pitting strategy. The white, red, and black car there in position that if he can just stay close to Bowles, if he could just stay close to Strid, all he needs to do is stay close, and if he pits for the final time, he will be able to take less fuel, and he will be able to take that position in the pit. So Strid doing everything he can to keep Bowles behind him. He is going to try to make this very difficult for Bowles. Hope that Bowles can maybe tear up some of those tires trying to get around. And that would certainly help Strid's case to try to take this victory here today. But Bowles has seemed to have a great handle on this setup. He's made his adjustments that he's needed to, and he's now closing up on the back of David Strid. And Strid's done an amazing job today. If we could just take a look at the battle box here, you'll see that Strid actually climbing 3 spots today, Bowles up 5 spots. These drivers coming through the field, and now we go side by side. No, Bowles thinks better of it, backs out. So Bowles trying to get that sweet 6th position claimed on the day and get that car up into the lead. We'll see whether he can manage to do that. In the meantime, we're coming up on 20 laps to go here. We'll be seeing pit stops in the next 10 laps or so from... actually, no, I take it back. I think everybody has fueled up for the end of this one, and Jason Lowe has officially now abandoned the rest of this race, so perhaps that damage just too much to keep going. So everybody can make it to the end. So I was thinking of one stop ago that Bowles was in a prime position, but no, nobody will need to stop here for the end of this one. Just 20 laps to go, and Bowles now challenging for that victory. Will he be able to do it? He's getting the run on Strid. And so what we're going to do is once again go side by side. You won't miss anything. We'll get a chance to talk about the absolute, well, it's the absolute coolest thing that you've not ever seen. We lost the car audio. There we go. It's the coolest thing you've seen. Maybe you haven't seen it. If you've been watching US IndyCar League broadcasts, you probably have. It's the Stick Quick. And if you go to stickquick.com, I promise you're going to see lots more photos than what I've got right here. But it's basically this. It's a little ring. It's made of silicone. It's ultra durable, weather resistant, chemical resistant. It's perfect to add to your shop, add to your garage. It will hold all of your tools. And the best part is it comes with those little discs that you see there, those flat discs. Those can be stuck anywhere on any surface. And that, you know, obviously you can stick something to, like a sticker. And what you can then do is take any one of these tools or utensils, pens, things you might use in the kitchen, things you might use in the bathroom, keys you want to keep by the door. So many cool ideas of what you can do with this. Obviously great for garages and any of you who are working with tools and you need to keep something handy. You just put that little ring around it, and you can stick it to steel or iron, I guess, and if it's not made of steel or iron, it's made of plastic even. You just put the little plastic pad on, or you put the little pad on there. It's made of metal, and you can stick it to that. So literally can stick just about anything to anything. 3 sizes come in a pack. We've got multiple different colors. I've got the green color, because green is my name, but more than that, I race with green colors. As we get 15 laps to go here, you want to make sure you get over to stickquick.com and you get your Stickquicks right now. There's no excuses. Get over there. Start 2022 fully organized, and that is the way to do it with the Stickquick. Always so thankful to have Stickquick with us and part of our extended racing team for the US IndyCar League. But a great sponsor of the US IndyCar League, paying many of the costs, including broadcasting costs. So if you like the broadcasts, definitely head over to stickquick.com and pick up one of those Stickquicks or more. No limit. And tell them that you enjoy watching the US IndyCar League broadcasts, and thank them for their sponsorship, and they'll get the message. In the meantime, spread the message if you can about US IndyCar League. Always looking for more drivers. Head on out there and give Strid and Bulls and get up into this fight. My goodness, give them a challenge. So there's only 3 cars on the lead lap at the moment, and they're all within 1 second of each other. We have been on board with Bulls as he's been just right at the back end of Strid the whole last part of this race, but it's looking like Strid is hanging on to this lead. Perhaps the handle will start to go away towards the end of this one, but we're going to watch here as we will go commercial free through the rest of this. Just 11 laps remaining, 10 laps. If you're Julian Altena watching, it's only been an hour and 10 minutes of racing. It's not that long. Open races sometimes go much longer. Certainly your Indy Elite Series race tonight will be much longer as well. But here we go, just 10 laps to go at what was an old horse racing track that was then turned into a dirt track, then became a paved track about 60, 70 years ago. And I've seen so much action from so many of the greats over the years. Will it be Strid adding his name to the top of that list as you see Ensch there on the low side getting past again? Or will it be Bulls adding his name to the winners list here in Milwaukee? We await that in just 8 laps as Bulls now down to the inside. They go side by side. And it's Bulls. Will he take the lead? He does. We look at the right rear of Bulls, and Strid comes in hot on the high side. Bulls keeps it pointed straight, and Strid basically conceding the position with 7 laps remaining. Strid now falling back into Bunyan's clutches just behind. Will Bunyan take that position? He just might. We'll watch on to find out. Believe it or not, the qualifying 2-lap IndyCar average was set here in 2011 by Dario Franchitti. Champ Car 1-lap average set in 1998. That's officially the fastest qualifying lap ever here at 20.0. Juan Pablo Montoya has had the fastest overall race average back in the year 2000. So, as I mentioned, with so many great names that have taken victory and put their name here in the charts, will it be Ryan Bulls who will add his name to the list? As Strid looks on, and now Bulls just going to be 3 laps to go, this time by the stripe. Strid just half a second in front of Bunyan, and it looks to probably stay that way. Bulls with just 3 laps remaining, 2.5 laps now, as he's out of turn 2 and headed down to turn 3. He'll take that fast turn 3, turn 4 complex. Back out onto the start-finish straight here. Of course, this also part of the fairgrounds here in Milwaukee, so it sees its fair share of action. Makes sense, it being originally a horse track and then later a short track for racing. Seems to be a progression of fairgrounds out there where that happens. So we're getting down to the end here. And on the white flag lap, it is Ryan Bowles who, the checkered flag is in the air, and he blinked out for a minute, and I thought what a tragedy that would be if he got disconnected there, but he'll take the victory and add his name to the famous winners here at the Milwaukee Mile. David Strid, such a hard-fought race. I thought he had it won, but he had no answer for Ryan Bowles today, that is for certain. The Australian duo between Strid and Bunyan not able to secure victory, and nevertheless, this won't hurt that badly for Strid or Bunyan in the points, as Livingston only able to get 4th. And Ensch ending up with a top 5 here. Richard Kelbaugh just outside the top 5 in 6th. Mike West out of his car. Jason Lowe, of course, finishing the race today, not taking victory as he actually led the most number of laps. So be able to get the final results for you up here on the screen in just a moment. And that was really a fun one. We saw a great challenge for the win, and it came with just a few laps remaining. Just a handful of laps. Ryan Bowles showed his speed all day, and he managed to overtake David Strid for the win. The American taking victory here for round 6, the ALZ.org Milwaukee 190. So we are going to be waiting for just a moment as the drivers are now hopping out of their cars, and they'll make their way into our commentary booth momentarily. And in the meantime, again, let us know in the comments if you enjoyed the race. Let us know, certainly make sure to subscribe. And if you're battling, or anybody in your family is battling with Alzheimer's, let us know that as well. The struggles you're going through, all part of this race today to bring awareness to Alzheimer's and that disease that affects so many Americans. It's expected to triple going forward here in just not that many years, so definitely need to get a handle on that disease. So we wait for some of the drivers to join us over here for the interviews, and we will be getting to them momentarily. Expect possibly to get Ryan Bowles here in broadcast booth, and would certainly like a chance to talk with either Howard Livingston or Dan Ensch when they're ready. Possibly Jason Lowe. In the meantime, once again, we will just say thank you very much to stickwick.com and Stickwick for being a presenting sponsor here of the US IndyCar League in season 13. And obviously, big thanks to the ALZ.org, the Alzheimer's Association. And of course, we played the public service announcement earlier and shared some stats about the Alzheimer's Association and Alzheimer's the disease and how it's affecting so many Americans. But we're looking to get Dan Ensch here and see if we can manage to talk to him about not only his race, but a little bit about the Alzheimer's Association. Hey, Dan, are you available?
Yeah, I'm here. What do you say we concentrate on ALZ.org and forget that race?
Well, you can say forget that race. You hung on. You know what? I talked about it. We can certainly talk about ALZ.org, but I talked about it, and when you are suffering, or someone in your family is suffering with the disease, of course, everybody suffers together, and it's not a great metaphor, but still, when we're racing out there and you don't necessarily have the car under you, or you don't have the setup figured out, or whatever, it's just not your day. You still got to suffer through the race and hope that you can get a good finish. And nevertheless, even though you weren't up there challenging for the lead, you still ended up with a top 5. So not bad for the overall championship in the end.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if there's one thing being a caregiver of an ALS patient will give you, it's patience. You're going to learn it whether you want to or not. So, yeah, it's kind of a just keep plugging along type attitude sometimes. Nothing seemed to be going right today, and my math was terrible on math on that last guest. So it was a lousy race, but it's for a good cause. ALS.com, ALZ.com. If you have a loved one who is suffering from ALS, if you have a loved one who is a caregiver of someone suffering from ALS, there's help to be had. And it's very, very important that you do get help, because trust me when I tell you, you cannot take care of an advanced ALS patient by yourself and expect to maintain your sanity. So you got to go get some help, and ALS.com is the place to go to do that. And I hope everybody within earshot of me will do that.
Absolutely. We've been talking about ALZ.org and all of the information that they have there available to families.
What did I say, com?
You said .com. We've been saying .org. We've got it on the screen. It's all good. You got it on your car. That's why we put those patches on there.
I told you it was a bad race. But yeah, ALS.org. And we, of course, need donations for research. There's not a whole lot really known about this disease yet. They didn't even talk about it being a disease until about 30 years ago. So if you have a donation, we sure would appreciate it. We can help a lot of people.
Absolutely. And it's the leading cause that leads to dementia. You can spot it early on, watching for certain behavioral symptoms. And so they have all that information on ALZ.org. Lots of great info. And of course, as you said, Dan, you can make your contribution there and help fight this disease and help find more treatments and possibly eventually a cure. And wouldn't that be awesome, Dan?
Oh, it would be absolutely awesome. And by the way, don't forget, they're not just about Alzheimer's. There's about 12 different kinds of dementia that are actually listed by the Medical Society, and 6 of them involve Alzheimer's. But there are some that don't, and they're covered with ALS.org as well. So if you have a loved one suffering from any kind of dementia or Alzheimer's related disease, give them a shout.
Absolutely. And so, as you said, head on over to ALZ.org. You'll get lots more info. They even have a 24-hour hotline posted on the top of their website. So if you have immediate questions you need answered, you can go straight there and find out. Great having you in there, Dan. And of course, later on today, though, you're going to be competing in the Indy Elite Series race, and they can catch that over on Sim TV here on YouTube. And, best of luck there, my teammate for Last Lap Motorsport, representing us over in Indy Elite Series. Good luck, man.
You too. You're going to be in on that, aren't you?
I'm not competing in Indy Elite this season, but there's lots of cool new competitors in there. Yeah, you're our sole hope for Last Lap Motorsports, so go get it.
We got to get Flynn to show up. He's listed too, so.
Maybe we'll talk. You know how Flynn is. Flynn Lazier, we're talking about, another teammate of ours at Last Lap Motorsports. Buddy Lazier's son races with us, and of course sometimes in the Indy Elite Series, but he's got a very busy schedule, including real life racing. But Dan, good luck rest of the season. You got a top 5 today, and you got the word out about ALZ.org, and we'll look forward to seeing you tonight out there on the track as well, man. Good luck.
Well, thank you very much, and congrats to Ryan.
Absolutely. Ryan Bowles taking the victory here. David Strid second, Bunyan third, Livingston fourth, and Dan Ensch, who we just spoke with, ending the race in 5th place. And now let's go ahead. We can talk with Howard Livingston, who's joining us. Is he there? Hey, Howard, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you get me?
I've got you now loud and clear, Howard. I know you talk about guys with busy schedules. You're a musician. You're out there playing gigs. You've got a happy boat life. You got a backyard that you could just chill in all the time, and it looks like one of those magical palaces down there in Florida, just enjoying the sunsets and living a great life. And Howard, you're doing great in the championship, 3rd place coming in. and you kind of drifted back a little bit today. You did qualify up in second. How did the race go for you, and was Milwaukee a challenge for you today?
Actually, I really like this track because it's a driver's track, if you will. I mean, you really got to stay on your toes or a lot can go wrong. I started out thinking this might have been a fuel savings race, so that's the reason I kind of held back there in the beginning. And then the yellow came out, so that went out the window. But I was happy just to, once that happened, we could just actually go back and race. But we're already a lap down at that point because we'd been hanging back so much.
Sure. And this is one of those ones where strategy could help you, it could cost you. You don't know with the yellow flags how it's going to work out. But you were the top car just a lap down, and it looked like you had pretty good speed in the car. Did it seem like something that if the yellows had shaken out a little bit differently, that you might have had the pace to be able to stay with those front runners, or were they just a little too rapid today?
No, I could stay with them, if I hadn't, had the car set up to race, full fuel. And again, I made the mistake of trying to conserve fuel where in the end it didn't pay off. But no, the car was fast. The Care Camp's car was, just as fast as everybody. At the end, I could see that once we started really racing at the end, we were keeping up on, but unfortunately we were a lap down. So, it is what it is. We're just happy to bring home a fourth.
Absolutely. And as Dan is racing for the ALZ.org group, you're always out there racing for Care Camps. And I know that's a special group that we will get a chance at the final race to really spend some time talking more about them as we do each season. But just a cool thing that you and Dan are doing out there this season, being able to bring awareness to some different charities and a fun part of the US IndyCar League. Just give me a little bit of a heads up and tell everybody, what's it like now competing in so many seasons of the US IndyCar League? How do you find the league? Is it fun to compete here? Do you like the competitors? Are you finding it clean to race in each week? Is it because you keep turning up every week, so there must be a reason.
This league has such a great group of not only talented drivers, but also, courteous drivers. You don't have, nobody's making stupid mistakes, except me every now and then. But it's just a great group of drivers, and it's a pleasure to race here every week.
Well, and you do a great job, and we were talking about it earlier. I'm not sure who I would say that you are emulating. I think Gary Godso, one of my co-commentators from the Indy Fix series, would say like the Rick Mears approach or something like that. But you seem to have these consistent finishes. It's been a lot of top fives for you this season, and that's how you're staying up there in third place in the points. And again, as you're mentioning with the US IndyCar League, it being a consistently close, competitive, and yet clean group to race with, you're able to get those good finishes week in and week out. And then, you're still in this points hunt. So what do you think? The end of this season, possibly there's a chance that you can step it up a little bit more and maybe take a victory and get up there, fight for second and first in the points?
Yeah, we've got some monster drivers up in first and second place, but anything can happen. I've learned that. The main thing is just don't give up. Keep racing. Keep turning lap after lap, and and try to get yourself in a position where you can make something happen.
Well, it sounds great, and we'll look forward to that's the cool thing. You just don't know what's going to happen headed forward for the rest of the season. So let's take a look at that schedule while I got you here. Of course, this was the ALZ.org Milwaukee 190. And then next week we have Charlotte. Hey, Charlotte, Atlanta, those are very similar to a very certain Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Possibly those could be a couple of weeks to get you kick-started for the end of this season and maybe see you up there in victory lane. Either way, good luck, Howard, for the rest of this season. We look forward to rooting on the Care Camps machine.
Thank you so much, and a shout out always to Stick Quick. Thanks for sponsoring our league, and thanks for everybody for coming out, and thanks for doing such a great broadcast.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and I'll look forward to seeing your photos from Sunset again today. Have a great day, Howard. Appreciate it, man.
All right, you too. Have a good one.
Absolutely. And quite a few, on another note, quite a few different drivers not able to make it today. Manuel Gomez Esteban, Mauro Ramirez, a number of different drivers. Of course, Dan and his family having some illness in their family as well. A lot of drivers suffering this week with some different setbacks and some illness in their family. And so, I know also with COVID that's going around right now, it's just really a lot of people really affected by it. So I hope you who are out there on Facebook and on YouTube and everywhere else that you're watching us here, I hope that you're okay, and I hope that your loved ones recover soon, and just stay safe and do everything you need to stay safe and not get sick out there. So anyway, great race here today. It was fantastic to watch Ryan Bowles come through with that victory there at the end, and he managed to take victory from David Strid on the track, and not an easy thing to do. Ryan Bowles taking victory for the first time this season, and so great to have a new victor in victory lane. So that is going to actually do it for us here, as I don't think any other drivers want to be interviewed here today. It was Ryan Bowles who took victory over David Strid and Graham Bunyan. Howard Livingston 4th, Dan Ensch 5th, Richard Kelbaugh 6th, Mike West 7th, Jason Lowe 8th, and Martin Van Tongeren 9th. You want to get out there on the track with these drivers? As I said before, look down in the description. You'll find a link. You can click right on over there. If you're an IndyCar driver, get on out here on Sunday mornings or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. It may say US IndyCar League, but it's a very international field, as you can see. So make sure to join us out here, and we'll see you again next week from Charlotte. Same time, same channel, VirtualRacing.Network. If you're not already subscribing, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. Like the video for more. We'll see you next week here on VirtualRacing.Network. Again, I'm Trevor Greenfield. Had a pleasure. Have a great rest of your week. Till then, stay safe. Bye-bye, everybody.